Hello and welcome to a special edition, a Gamescom edition, Gamescom recap edition of Starside Chat. My name is Aaron, and with me as always is Zach. How's it going, Zach?
Good. Yeah, Gamescom was actually pretty exciting, so I'm excited to get into going over everything.
I totally forgot about it. It's crazy that it's like so late in August, and it's kind of like a E3 Part 2, not really, but a nice little treat for us at the end of August.
And especially since I think we were all fairly disappointed by Jeff Keighley's Summer Games Fest showcase. To me was substantially better than that show.
It's true. I think we were like right after his game showcase, we were kind of like, this is all right. But it just paled in comparison to the Microsoft show. And we were just like, no, this is the best thing that has happened.
Yeah.
No Nintendo, overall Nintendo Direct this summer, it seems like, I guess we can call it.
Yeah, I feel like they already kind of showed what they have coming for the fall, and like they've done Pokemon Directs, and I think they did some gameplay for that Mario and Rabbids game. So
there was a Splatoon Direct.
Yeah, there was a Splatoon one as well. So I don't think they have anything else coming out that they would need to do another Direct for.
That's crazy.
So I feel like we won't see anything from Nintendo until maybe Game Awards.
I think it is likely that we will see something, but I don't know if it's going to be a blowout. Like, I feel like they have to know that Zelda is like knocking at everyone's door, and I don't know if they would blow it on the Game Awards or if they would want to take the whole news cycle. I mean, it's Nintendo, so maybe we'll just they'll post something on Twitter that's like, hey, here's the name and here's a 5-minute trailer.
That's true. Yeah, they might do something like that. That would be a little disappointing or anticlimactic, but I feel like they also did a Nintendo Direct for Breath of the Wild, like at one point before the game came out, that was not connected to like the Game Awards. I'm trying to remember because I think
that is true.
I mean,
because we saw the plateau.
There was like a 20-minute gameplay video that they put out, I thought.
Because that was, they had such a good tutorial video. There was such a clean thing to cut off because you could just basically set journalists loose on the plateau and they could do the entire thing. And then it would stop after getting out of the plateau. But I feel like we saw a bunch of directs that was just talking about like, well, here are the powers you can get. And like, this is what climbing is like, and this is what it means to craft things and things like that.
Which makes me wonder what they would show for the next one, because we know all that already. Like,
do we? I don't know. Who's to say? We don't know anything, Zach, unfortunately.
I guess that's true.
Maddeningly, we know next to nothing about this, except that I guess it's maybe Sky related, and you have a thing on your arm that maybe turns into a dragon head at some point.
Yeah, you have to figure the mechanics are pretty similar, though.
Yeah, you would hope. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe what I really want is a hook shot. I would love to have a hook shot. You didn't get one in the last game, and I feel like that's something that could happen, especially if it's so vertical. It seems like it's going to be a very vertical game. Like, there's going to be sky islands, but then again, who knows? We have no idea. We have literally no idea what it is. We don't know the name of it.
If it is more vertical, what was that? The game that they re-released for the Switch that like you can sort of fly, like you sort of are up in the sky. I don't know that game. Maybe I'm not describing it correctly, but it was the Wii one that had the motion controls and nobody liked it, but it came out anyway.
Skyward Sword?
Yeah, Skyward Sword. And I feel like I recall seeing videos, you're like high up and then you like drop down. I feel like maybe they're bringing some of that back. It's confusing to think about because they were like, here's Skyward Sword. There's a lot of like, hint, a lot of the stuff from this game made it into Breath of the Wild. And also potentially the stuff that's in this game is also going to reflect on the next, like the sequel to Breath of the Wild. So maybe there's something to that, more verticality and all of that.
I'm into it, whatever it is. Zach, before we get into news, I have a food related thing I want to talk about.
Okay, go for it.
Zach, what's your favorite kind of, well, I guess maybe you don't enjoy eating pizza anymore, but when you ate pizza back in the day, what was your favorite kind of pizza?
That's a good question. I feel like I have to pick something a little more exotic, but I do like simple stuff like, pepperoni cheese and peppers, and I do like banana peppers, so maybe put some of those on there.
I forgot that I liked this so much, but there was a place where we used to live called Tommaso's. Have you ever been there?
Oh yeah, that place is great.
And they had Detroit style pizza, and I loved it. And I didn't even know it was called Detroit style, but I guess that is what it is. And this week I was like, man, I wish I could eat that again. And so I looked for a Detroit style place in my area, and I went to a place called Jet's Pizza, which I guess is a chain. There's a bunch of them. And man, I really like Detroit style pizza. I think it might be my favorite kind of pizza.
I agree. So I've had this thought before as well because of Tommaso's. We used to get it quite often, and we would always get that. I'd be like, man, like I know Chicago likes to brag about their deep dish, and New York is all about their giant thin slices and everything. And like there's this big battle going on between those two, who has the best pizza. But I think the sneaky answer to that is actually Detroit pizza.
I think you're right. It's crazy that no one's talking about. I mean, I know that for a while Pizza Hut had a fake Detroit style that I found to be not that great, but Jets is really good and very affordable as well. You can get something called a Four Corners. It's like a square Detroit style pizza, and I think it's meant for one person, but I think it can be split very easily by two people. And so you can get you can split it. So it's like $5 a person. And it's great. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since I had it this week.
Yeah, I think next time you hear somebody like try to debate like which is better between Chicago deep dish and New York style pizza, say you're both wrong. It's Detroit pizza, Detroit style pizza.
I have heard there is a thing called a St. Louis style pizza, but I don't know what it is, and I think it might be weird.
I am unaware of what that would be, and I've been to St. Louis a number of times over the years.
Anyway.
Either way, it's still Detroit pizza.
We're not sponsored by Jets or Tommaso's yet.
Or the city of Detroit.
Or the city of Detroit. But should we get into some news? We got a big show. We got to talk about Gamescom, but we'll talk about some news before we get into that.
Yeah, so there was some news about a new Steam mobile app coming soon. It's supposed to be in beta now. And they are absolutely right that the Steam mobile app feels like super old and out of date. But so it's about time that they've finally joined the modern era of mobile apps. I don't know when this is like officially releasing, but it is supposedly in beta now. I don't know how you would get a hold of that, but it's very exciting that finally they're going to update the Steam mobile app.
Yeah, the app right now is basically just a bad web version of the website.
Yeah.
And so I'm very excited for this to have more functionality.
Well, and just thinking of it as like a storefront as well, like the first thing you see when you open it is your friends list.
Yeah.
And it's like you have to pull out like that menu, and it doesn't say store, it's like catalog.
Yeah, it's weird.
There's a lot of weirdness to it that I don't know. They've needed to modernize for a number of years now. So
a lot of Steam news up top. What's this ebook?
Yeah, so The Verge had a story this week about the Steam Deck, and there's apparently a small book that Valve released about the Steam Deck. It's a free ebook, so you can download it and read about sort of their plans and vision for the Steam Deck. And the interesting piece of news that came out of it is that Valve sort of calls the Steam Deck a multi-generational category, which would seem to indicate that the Steam Deck we have now is not like the final iteration. Like they're not done with this as sort of a hardware concept, and that they will be like one day we'll see a Steam Deck 2, or maybe it'll just be like, if they make one next year, it'll be the Steam Deck 2023 or however they want to name it. But so yeah, if you have not yet gotten your hands on a Steam Deck, though, I feel like I've seen a lot of news stories about how those are like, they're really ramping up production and how quickly they're shipping those.
I've seen that as well, yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like it's not as hard to get your hands on a Steam Deck now as it once was, or at least that you're not necessarily waiting as long as maybe you used to have to wait to get one. But the cool news here is that, in a year or two, we could see a second generation Steam Deck that maybe has slimmer bezels and like a sleeker profile and better battery life or something like that, which is very exciting.
Do you think they will increase the price of it?
Well, so there's already 3 SKUs. I do wonder how they'll handle that as far as like, if they came out with another one, would they have to like bump up the price? Would they
This
have
isn't
to...
in our show notes, but PlayStation has decided it's a good idea to increase the price of the PlayStation 5, which no one can find still.
Yeah, I heard about that. So what did they bump it up to?
I think they increased it by like $50 maybe, or it's different in different markets. So like in Canada and like Europe and Asia, I want to say it's all different amounts that they've increased it by. I don't know what it is in America, but I think it's like $50 maybe.
Did they say why?
Inflation, I think they said.
I did see that, and I also saw like another story about how Microsoft and Nintendo have no plans to increase the price of their consoles.
So stupid.
So I don't like, what is Sony doing?
I don't know.
So they came out with a lot of goodwill. The PS5 was selling great despite the fact that it's impossible to find. Somehow it was still selling well. But they have just like really, like we always talk about every generation, like one of the companies has like some sort of terrible vision for how they want to handle that generation. And they just botch the messaging around it. Like, and it causes problems, and the other, their competition sort of capitalizes on it and wins that generation. And last generation, Microsoft was the one that botched it. This generation, it seems like Sony's trying very hard to be that.
It's weird.
That company, because they're like, Microsoft has Game Pass, and Sony's like, we could do something similar, but we don't think that's profitable, so we're not going to go all the way with it. We're going to do like a half, measured version of it. And also we're going to up the price while nobody else is. Like, I don't understand. Seems like a bad strategy.
I just keep seeing weird articles about Sony stuff. Like, did you see that article about, this also isn't in our show notes, but in the Last of Us Part 1 PS5 remake, the DualSense controller is going to allow you to feel the dialogue.
What? I don't understand.
I don't understand. I mean, maybe it's like an accessibility thing, but yeah, you can feel them talking, I guess.
Like it's going to vibrate with each word, or...
Great question.
The touchpad will give you some sort of like braille feedback. I don't...
That would be crazy, actually.
I feel like you would need a different controller to make that work, but...
What's next on the list? Oh, yes. Okay, so let's talk about Saints Row. Paint a picture for me, Zach.
What if there was a new version, sort of like a reboot of this classic open world, sort of over the top GTA style game, except the graphics look like they're from last generation, and the gameplay is very repetitive, and it's getting lots of 6s and 7s. Would you be interested?
So, I would say no. We were talking about this, I think, a little bit last week, or maybe when we were recording those blind spottings we did. But yeah, the article Ars Technica had a review of it, and the headline was like, Saints Row is an irredeemable disaster, or something like that. Like, previous Saints Rows, I think, got by because I don't want to say that like the GTA genre was still like nascent, but I mean, it was an interesting spin on like GTA, but it is blank. You know, there was like GTA, but hackers was Watch Dogs, and that was great. And like GTA, but The Simpsons was that hit and run. But this was like GTA, but crazy, like insane. Like I only played Saints Row 4, which is the one where it starts with the world blowing up, and then it takes place in a completely virtual reality version of the world where like glitched people are wandering around and you have a dubstep gun, and the boss fights are all crazy inventive, and like you can turn into a toilet and things like that. And they have really cranked down the craziness to now it's just like a generic, there's nothing that makes it special, it seems like. It's just a game where you get in cars and shoot people, and that happens over and over and over again.
Well, and it's a little bit like Saints Row, I feel like, came about when, like, that was the 360 PS3 generation, right?
Yes, because I believe I played Saints Row. Well, no, I played Saints Row 4 on my PC, but I think it was during the 360 era. Yeah.
Yeah, so that generation was just like, once GTA 4 came out, like every game after that had to be like an open world GTA style game.
It's true.
Like that was the game that sort of set the tone for like the rest of the generation. And so you just had a lot of like really mediocre like GTA clones, basically. Even stuff like, what was that? Red Faction Guerrilla was basically a GTA style game set on Mars. But like you said, it would be a GTA game, but with, you know, some sort of interesting twist to try to make it interesting. And the Red Faction Guerrilla one was completely destructible environments.
The Geo mod.
Yeah, and then you'd have like what was it, Prototype? That was another one that came out like about the same time as
that was
Red
good,
Faction
actually,
Guerrilla.
I have to say.
I liked that game too. It was basically like a superhero thing where you're in like sort of a GTA style open world, you know, with a city, but you are basically a superhero that can run up the side of buildings and do all this crazy like power stuff. So that was the generation. And Saints Row came about in that generation, and it was just another one of that style of game. And so, like you said, the way they set themselves apart was to just be weird and wacky and completely over the top, and to try to have like, you know, an over the top sense of humor as well. And that worked for that time because that was what everybody was doing. But this game feels like they, like you said, they dialed all of that like humor and being super over the top. They dialed all of that way down.
Yeah.
Then all that's left is just another, you know, GTA clone, but like still a little bit stuck in that 360 generation, like GTA style open world game, like feeling. That's kind of where it's stuck. And so it just doesn't feel like they've modernized and, you know, figured out why people like that genre.
It's weird.
Or done something to set themselves apart.
I also feel like this game sort of came out of nowhere. I feel like we weren't talking about it 6 months ago, and then all of a sudden we got a trailer for it, some sort of reveal, maybe at the Game Award? No, I don't remember when this was revealed. But it had a good first impression because they released the character creator called like Make the Boss or whatever, and you could like the character customization, the way you can build your main character is very deep and cool, and they got some goodwill because they released that for free and people could like make crazy things. I don't think we ever got a Monster Factory about it, but we could have. But yeah, the actual game itself is just like, it seems like they put no thought into it. It was just like, let's push this out. Let's copy paste a bunch of missions over and over again. I was watching the IGN review of it, and the guy was making a joke about how there's so much diverse things you can do, but it all just goes back to stealing cars, where it's like, you know, do you want to own a like chop shop? Well, you got to steal a bunch of cars. Do you want to invest in like a fashion line? Well, you got to do all these mini games. Just kidding. No, you just have to steal a bunch of trucks that are carrying clothes. And like everything just boils down to steal cars, go into like a wave-based combat, and then story progresses. And it's just like I don't know how this happened. It almost seems like it's designed by committee, where people were just like, here's the blueprint, make this happen, and no one had the ability to speak out and say, hey, this is super generic, we need to like put spice into this. It's just this is going to be forgotten in 6 months. I feel like no one's going to remember this game came out.
Yeah, I feel like by the time people are talking about like end of year top 10 list, this will have already been forgotten. But yeah, it does feel like somebody from the 360 generation were like, oh, like I have all this power at my hands to make a game. I'm just going to make another GTA clone. Mm-hmm. But like as envisioned from the 360 generation.
It's weird. So I don't think that, I don't know if they had plans for DLC or anything, but I don't know that any amount of like updates or patches is going to fix this. It's like a base level game design, mission design problem. So
yeah, it's different than like, I forget who I was watching, but they were talking about Cyberpunk, and they were like, could somebody still like, or could they still sort of No Man's Sky the situation where they just like do a bunch of updates and fix it? And they were saying they didn't think so, because when No Man's Sky came out, the problem was it wasn't that it was like buggy and unplayable. It was there wasn't enough to do. Empty, whereas with Cyberpunk, there was plenty to do. It was just buggy and barely playable or barely functioning on certain platforms. And so they had a lot of like stuff to fix that is not super fixable, like once the game has already been released. I feel like Saints Row has like both problems, where it's a little buggy, but also there's like a bland set of missions. Like maybe they could add more stuff to it, but why? Like why do it?
Well, let's bring the podcast up a little bit and talk about one of our favorite personalities in gaming, Sakurai, who is the creator of Smash and also a Kirby game, I think. Or not Kirby. What's Kirby. That game he did? Was it Kirby?
Yeah, he did Kirby.
Sakurai has a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You got Sakurai creating a YouTube channel. You've got spoilers for what came up in Gamescom, but there's a new podcast coming up from Kojima. Yeah. So I feel like all these like famed Japanese developers are getting out there and starting to create their own fame, sort of adjacent to video games, but a little bit outside of games.
It's interesting. I had never considered this, but it definitely makes sense that there are like non-English podcasts, like non-American podcasts. And so I might listen to that Kojima one just because he seems insane, and I very much want to hear. I also don't know what it's going to be. Is it just going to be the translation of what he's saying, or are you going to hear him in the background and then someone's going to be like translating one of those over it?
News reports where they're talking to somebody in a different language, and then you just have like a voiceover translating.
I don't know, because I kind of want to hear his voice in the background. I don't just want it to be like a different guy reading a transcript,
Yeah. Who will become the voice of Kojima?
Great question. I am excited to know.
It is strange. Like, I feel like it's my understanding that podcasts are not super huge in like Japan. Like they've not become like as big a thing as they are in the West. So Kojima creating a podcast, and maybe we're getting off the topic of Sakurai creating a YouTube channel, but
equally cool.
But yeah, I feel like it's a little bit more him being like, hip to what's going on in the West. But
he does love the West.
But I've heard that like, cause he wrote a book at one point, and I hear that it was terrible because it was basically it wasn't what anybody wanted it to be. It was just him talking about the movies he likes, and there were just like chapters upon chapters of just him talking about the movies he likes. And it was just kind of clear that it was like, well, he really wanted to be a filmmaker, but that didn't work out. So he just made movie-like video games. But now I feel like he has the fame and cachet that if he wanted to become a filmmaker, he could. But
oh yeah, 1,000%.
But I guess he just still likes making video games.
Speaking of video games going into movies, what do you think about this Netflix announcement about the BioShock movie?
I think it's cool, actually. Like, I don't really know about the director. So they announced the director and writer of the Netflix BioShock adaptation. It's Francis Lawrence, who directed I Am Legend and The Hunger Games, one of the Hunger Games movies, and Slumberland, which those are not like super enticing movies to be like, ooh, cool, this is a great director or anything like that. But the writer is the one that made me excited because it's the writer of Logan, Blade Runner 2049, and American Gods. I never watched American Gods, but I thought Blade Runner 2049 and Logan were both great movies. So
I agree with that.
I think from a writing perspective, there's reason to be excited about this BioShock adaptation. You know,
Netflix is not. I mean, so did you start watching that Sandman show?
I definitely understand that hesitation that you just had when you think about Netflix.
They're not great at adapting things. Sandman actually is pretty good. I've started watching Sandman, but in general,
what about The Witcher? Do you like The Witcher?
Yeah, the first season of The Witcher was good. I never watched the second season, but I probably will eventually. I didn't mind that.
I like The Witcher, but I hated what was the name of that show? Altered Carbon. I hated that adaptation. That's the big one. They did
an awful job.
That's the big one that stands out in my memory when I think of Netflix adaptations.
Not great, terrible. I have to say. And I don't know. BioShock is a very simple story, and so they could really do. I think it would be an easy one to adapt. It's not something where I'm like, I don't know how you can make this into a movie. Like, very clearly there is like a couple of twists that if you like build them right or change them a little bit, makes it good. Like, there's a clear beginning, middle, like climax and end. This could definitely be a good movie, but I don't know, man. Netflix, they're going for quantity over quality these days, I feel like, where they're just like pumping stuff out. Everything has like a set budget and you sort of have to work within that. So I will be interested to see a trailer for this. I mean, obviously we won't see that for a while, but I don't know. I also don't know, like, if this does super well, do you think they would do a BioShock Infinite follow-up?
You think they'd skip over BioShock 2 and go straight to Infinite?
Oh. I forgot there was a BioShock 2. Did you play that?
No.
I don't think anybody did. I don't think it wasn't made by two. I think the second one was like not made by the same guy, and it was like very different.
Yeah,
I feel like no one ever talks about it.
No, it's one of those series where everybody hates on the second game, I think, and it is known for the first and third.
Because Ken Levine is the guy that made these, right?
I think so. I'm not super familiar with BioShock. I did play Infinite, and I like that game, but
I don't think he was associated with BioShock 2. I think that like whoever was the publisher was just like, well, we have this IP, let's crank this out, and we have all these assets, let's just like reuse these assets. I don't know. I am cautious about this, but I will reserve my judgment until I see a trailer.
Yeah. I mean, in general, being distrustful of Hollywood and movies and TV shows and adaptations of things you like is a pretty good way to approach any of this stuff now.
We do need to start talking about Gamescom, but before we do that, let's talk about Destiny.
Yeah, I put in our show notes. Is it time to talk about Destiny again?
I don't know, man.
It used to be a recurring segment that we had on the show.
It's such a push and pull. Like,
Yeah.
I really thought this time I was going to stop being into Destiny, because I've skipped like the last 4 or 5 seasons. But I don't know. I was watching this little trailer. Was this part of Gamescom, or this was before, actually?
It was before. So Bungie did their own thing, and then there was a Destiny 2 Lightfall trailer in Gamescom as well.
I've talked about before that during the pandemic, my friends and I started a weekly Dungeons and Dragons game, which is still going, but it's a different campaign now and a different Dungeon Master. But in that Dungeons and Dragons campaign, I played a monk, and my main weapon was a meteor hammer, which I thought was a very cool weapon. And it seems like they've given the hunter a meteor hammer in this trailer, which is like, man, I'm interested in that. And I guess you have a grappling hook as well. It seems like this new expansion is once again in like a vertical cityscape where grappling hooks are going to be important, and you're going to be like, it's like a cyberpunk style thing, and you have a new element that is not like, what was the ice element that everyone hated? Stasis was a bad idea.
Yeah.
And no one liked it.
Well, everybody liked it from a PvE standpoint, but everybody hates it from a PvP standpoint.
And this is Strand, I guess, is the new element.
So it's now a Strand game.
It's now a Strand game. And
so, one of two, you've got Death Stranding and Destiny 2 Lightfall.
What do you think about this? It piqued my interest, which I'm bummed to say. I sent you a thing that was like, have you seen the new Destiny thing? And you were like, no. And I was like, it might be good. And that's like a bummer to me.
Yeah, I'm with you on, like, because I have not jumped back in this year. They put out the Witch Queen earlier this year, and I just go through these periods of time where I'm like super into Destiny, and I go through long periods of time where I just cannot be bothered. And I don't know, like, it seems crazy to me to think of like a cyberpunk like cityscape as a location in a Destiny expansion. And they're very definitely going for like this cyberpunky look that I do find very appealing. Yes. And so I watched that whole like Bungie thing, and I was like, man, it might be time to get back into Destiny. And then and even like the current season that like just kicked off, like when Gamescom started, is like this like space pirate themed thing where like the 6-man activity that's there, that's like match made, seems kind of fun too. Like, and you can unlock all these like sort of pirate themed things. All of that seems pretty appealing to me. And then I saw on the Epic Game Store, since Destiny 2 is now on the Epic Game Store for the first time, they had this special promotion where if you download it, I think that you still can do it. Like it was only available for like a week after Gamescom. But if you download Destiny 2 on the Epic Game Store, you get all the content for free, basically. So you can get the Witch Queen, which came out this year, for free.
I think that's true for all platforms, like Stadia as well.
I don't think so, because I saw the Witch Queen on sale on Steam. But what do you mean?
Like, I thought I read a thing that was like, you can play all the expansions up until like September 9th or something, and then it will cut off, but you can keep all the things you acquired in the expansions, but then you would have to buy them to unlock them after the fact.
Oh, weird. Well, because I saw Steam was still selling the Witch Queen DLC for like $23. It was like on sale, but it was like you still had to buy it. So I don't know, but either way, they have like most of the content for free on the Epic Game Store for the first week if you download it through them. And so I did download it. I haven't started it, or I haven't played it, because I like was like, maybe I should just watch somebody play it for a while. And watching them play it and everything, I was just like, I don't know, do I really want to get back into
Really?
this?
It kind of cooled the jets?
A little bit, yeah. I don't know what it is. Like, every now and then, like, I'm sure if I got into it, like if I actually started playing it, like it would start me off going through some of the story, and I would start getting some of that progression, and it would hook me again. But for whatever reason, like watching somebody play it and like they go into their menu and they've got all these bounties and everything, I found something very exhausting about it. Such that it cooled the jets enough that I just played more No Man's Sky instead of jumping into Destiny. So I don't know. I've been back and forth because I think the new stuff looks great, and there's reason to play it now because you can get the content for free. And I'm behind, so there's like a lot to catch up on. And I do like when I have jumped back into it over the last like year or two, I like that they have gone to this like seasonal thing where it's like, here's a 6-man activity that you can play. That it's match made and you can just run it over and over again and get like cool drops out of it. And like, I've enjoyed that every time I've jumped into it. And so I think that's a great thing that they do that they never used to do.
Well, and also, speaking of things they didn't used to do, I think with Lightfall, they're adding an in-game looking for group thing.
Yeah. So they're also trying to make it easier to find groups to play with if you want to do like some of the in-game activities that you need a group for. But like, I don't know, you and me, we never really did like the raids because you needed like a 6-man. Yeah, you needed a 6-man team. And also they just like take a long time, and it feels like they're very like in depth. Like you have to understand the mechanics of them. So you almost have to like research every encounter before you even go into it. And like, sure, there are groups that will sort of help ferry you through all of that stuff and explain it to you. But it's just like, it's so like, it's not chill. It's not a podcast game. You know what I mean? It's not like you get off work in the evening and you just want to like chill for an hour or two and play something. Like, it's not that experience. And so I feel like I would probably still not want to bother doing all of that stuff. So the thing that I continue to find a little bit off-putting about Destiny, even when I do get into it, is that like there's a substantial portion of the game that is just not for me.
It's true.
And so it's like buying a full game to get 2/3 of it. And I don't know. Like, again, I totally can enjoy playing through the story stuff, playing through the seasonal content, and like they do sort of drip feed week after week, like a new story mission with whatever's going on in that season, which is interesting. I think they've gotten a little bit better with storytelling in that regard. And I even enjoy jumping in, running my strikes and my Gambit weekly activities to get powerful drops. And that was enough to sustain me when I did jump in and play again last year. And of course, they had the seasonal activity around Halloween that I thought was actually a lot of fun, that I played a ton of because I was chasing some of those cosmetic items. And so it's stuff like that I think it is fun, but I don't. It's a mountain to climb. It feels like getting back into it, and I don't know if I want to put myself through climbing that mountain again.
Yeah, we'll have to see when Lightfall comes out. So it's coming out in February. I just don't know. I like the idea of having like ownership over that character and like logging in a couple times a week and like slowly building it up. But at this point, I'm not super invested in the story of Destiny, and I just like so many crazy things has happened that I feel like I
You
don't
need
even
to watch
any
like a
interest in.
3-hour lore video
Exactly,
to get
yeah.
caught up on everything that's happened since the last time you played.
Like, the character design of the new big bad guy is very cool, but I don't know anything about him or like why he's doing what he's doing. And also, frankly, I don't think that Bungie knew anything about him before like his introduction. Like, I don't know.
For sure.
It really,
yeah. No, this
soured me so much when they were like, they put out that Vidoc where they were like, yeah, in Destiny 1, we didn't know what the darkness was, and we were just kind of like messing around. I was like, come on, man, this was supposed to be a 10-year experience. Don't just like play it by ear.
You mean
That's
you
like
didn't
a bummer.
have an outline from day one that you were going to work towards?
Insane. And I was just like, I don't know if I'm like, this just feels like someone trying to make money at this point.
Yeah,
like playing stuff out if it's art, you know?
Yeah, it was like Disney's approach to Star Wars, where they had no plan and they were just flying by the seat of their pants, and it all felt like a mess. And it also feels like the Bond movies, the Daniel Craig Bond movies, where they get to like the fourth one and they introduce Blofeld and they're like, I haven't been around before. You're just seeing me for the first time, but I was the author of all of this. Like, okay, that's not true, because if you had planned it from the beginning, you would have had little tidbits to lead up to this. Instead, you're just writing it in, and it's very obvious.
It's bad.
It's bad.
And I don't like it. I feel even with Destiny 1, I've talked about this a lot, but Destiny 1, I didn't hate that there wasn't so much of a story, and it was fine. Like, Taken King was a good, like, they started to get into their groove, but when they started, I think the thing right after the Taken King was all that stuff with Siva, and I thought that was not good, I have to say. Like, maybe some of the gameplay was good, but don't add another thing like that. Like, continue to make rich decisions about the world you've already created instead of adding another weird faction.
Well, it's not even a new faction. It's an old faction with like a different sort of cosmetic to it.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. Unnecessary to me. But we got to start talking about Gamescom. Destiny, we will talk about at some point later.
All right.
Maybe. I don't know. I sometimes I go back and forth on if it's good, but I don't know. Well, we've talked about this ad nauseum about how Destiny will be really into it and sometimes will fall off of it. It's a very unique thing in my life that I just like am sometimes very into and sometimes I am angry at.
I know. I feel the same way, because there are times where I can't get enough of it and I'm playing it like at least an hour or two every day. And then there are just long periods of time where even just like seeing somebody put a video up on it on YouTube, I'm like, no, thank you. Do not need this in my life. So I don't know. Well, and I do think that the gameplay and like the chase for better gear can be enough, even if you don't care about the story, because we played Destiny for years without caring about the story.
And I liked it. It was good. It was all I think maybe that's what I was responding to, was like the mystery of it, because they had not written any of it. In fact, did not know what was going on themselves.
That was a thing that turned me off about Destiny for a long time. And why I always felt like I can enjoy the gameplay of it. I just don't get into it. Like with the Mass Effect trilogy, I was always super into that because I loved the universe. I loved the lore. I loved the characters of it. And so, like, it didn't matter that, like, Mass Effect 1's gameplay was not the best. Like, I just loved being in that universe. Destiny never quite hit on that same level for me.
I agree.
It was definitely more of this is a fun gameplay experience and not, like, this universe is intriguing and pulling me in type of a thing. But
Gamescom,
45 minutes into the show, let's talk Gamescom. Maybe we don't need to go through this full list or we'll be here for like another hour, but anything stand out to you specifically?
What do you think about this everywhere game?
This is an open world game. Was this an RPG?
No.
Okay, explain it to me.
It's all things. I for a while I had a good quip about this because I thought it was called Everything, but it's in fact called Everywhere. And I was going to say everything. This looks like nothing. Because it seems like a very top level, like a guy who's never developed a game before being like, let's just make everything. Like, the scope of it is so massive. They've talked about how it's going to be a world where you can go and just create things, but also play games in. I feel like they're trying to ramp off of like what Roblox is, but also like Minecraft and also Fortnite, probably more so Fortnite. And it just seems like it's going in every direction, but they didn't say anything substantial about it. They just had like weird concept art. They want to be they want to be a digital place where they want to be Fortnite. They want to be a place where you can go to digital concerts, like you can go to digital concerts in Fortnite. But they also want to be Minecraft. They want to be Roblox. I don't think that there is anything behind this. I don't think this is ever going to come out. And if it does come out, I think it's going to be very disappointing. This was probably the weirdest thing that they showed, because I was just like, no gameplay, not even any CG. Very, very briefly, there was like some CG stuff, but yeah, this looked bad to me. I maybe I'll eat my words, and this will be like the next big thing. But this seems like someone being like, we should make the next Fortnite, and it's going to be way better because this. And I don't know. It seems ill-conceived to me.
It really confused me, just like watching through this trailer again. I was like they wanted to make the Oasis from whatchamacallit?
Yes. From Ready Player One.
Yeah. But then it seems like maybe there's racing, like you're in a car. They're showing like somebody driving a car, and then
I think it's like Roblox, where you can like make your own games probably, but it's like more streamlined and like less coding.
Well, but then at the end of it, like completely different art style to everything we've seen up to that point. There's just like a guy who's like looking at something very confused, and you're just like, is this still the same game? Like what?
No.
What is happening?
I don't know anything about this, and I don't think they know anything about it either. This is vaporware to me, I feel. I don't think we're never going to see this again, or we're going to hear about it like 2 years from now, and they're going to be like, we've decided to scrap this.
I mean, it could be the next, what's a pirate game?
Skull and Bones.
Yeah, it could be the next Skull and Bones, or it could be that Beyond Good and Evil 2 that like they've shown some stuff, but like it has disappeared for like 10 years and nobody.
What happened?
Nobody
to that?
is aware.
Weren't they like making the community build it at this point? Didn't they say like, you can make your own songs and we'll put it in? We're not going to pay you, but
yeah,
help us out.
They had Joseph Gordon-Levitt come out and be like, hey, we're working with the developers to like make community driven like music and art for this game. Help us out. And I feel like that was the last thing they ever showed about.
I think you're correct
game.
about that.
And they probably got a bunch of that stuff, and they were like, well, I don't know what to do now.
Then they showed Dune Awakening, which is an MMO, an open world survival MMO set on Arrakis in the Dune world.
Yeah, I don't know how you make an MMO out of Dune, I guess. But I guess you could maybe make an MMO out of anything.
Yeah, I guess it's going to be like a Rust. My guess is it's going to be like a Rust style thing where everyone's in a desert and you're sort of like building up settlements or something. And then also there will be worms because it's open world survival. So there's going to be like crafting or it'll be like that Ark game more like with dinosaurs. Except that instead of dinosaurs, it'll be big worms.
Was Vin Diesel going to show up?
I hope so. Then they showed a new DualSense Edge controller, and they made a big deal about it being wireless, but all controllers are wireless. I couldn't figure out what was unique about this.
Well, so it's supposed to be like the Microsoft, their Pro controller that they have that has like the flappy paddles on them on the back, so you can like have like, you know, the paddles on the back to do different functions, so you don't have to take your thumbs off the thumbsticks. And then it also has like removable, replaceable thumbsticks. So if you ever ran into like thumbstick drift like you do on the Joy-Cons, you could just replace them. It's supposed to be like a customizable like better version of the standard controller, but it looks so much like the normal controller.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have the Steam Deck that has the little buttons on the back, and I never use them because I cannot get used to them. So maybe I'm the wrong person for that, but I don't recall seeing a price on that, but I'm sure it's
crazy expensive.
Yeah, like double the price of the standard controller.
More Callisto Protocol stuff. Still super gross to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Very much Dead Space. Lords of the Fallen seemed fine. This looked just like a generic... Actually, what was this? Lords of the Fallen was...
I think everybody thought this was sort of like a Dark Souls style game, which it may very well be.
Yeah, it's got a Dark Souls style... Yeah, I remember this. Yeah, because it was a guy who had like a lantern. Yeah, this is fine.
It looks like sort of Lord of the Rings meets Dark Souls. Without using either of those two as actual properties. But
moving out to another co-op game. Have you seen that Plate Up or Plate It that people are playing right now online?
No.
Very hot right now on Twitch. Hogwarts Legacy is coming out on February 10th.
Yeah, the trailer they showed for this was weird. Like, they had like a really long like gameplay thing that they released earlier this year, and I thought that made it look awesome. But this thing was a little strange to me.
Did you see that the like premium collector's edition comes with a book that has a floating wand on it that uses like magnets to float?
No, that sounds cool.
It's a lot of money.
I bet it is, yeah.
Tales from Borderland. I'll be honest, I skipped through this because I don't care about Tales from Borderland.
Yeah, I don't care about it either.
Dying Light 2 DLC, another thing I don't super care about. Tortuga: A Pirate's Life was kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, I thought this was going to be like a big reveal of Sid Meier's Pirates remade. And that like would have really kind of excited me because I loved that game like when I was maybe in high school or like middle school even. And this it basically looked like that. And I was like, ooh, are they remaking that game finally? But no, it ended up just being a game called Tortuga: A Pirate's Life, which may very well just be like a heavily, Sid Meier's Pirates inspired game. But I have no clue for sure what that game is based on the trailer they showed.
Now, Marauders was interesting to me. It seems like an Escape from Tarkov style game, but in space, which is kind of what that the cycle is. But this seems more like space and not necessarily on planets. Like I think you're going into ships and trying to collect stuff and then getting out of there as fast as possible. I'm interested in this. I'd like to see some gameplay of it. It was just a cinematic what we saw. It'll come out in October. Lightfall we already talked about. Sonic Frontier still looks super generic to me, coming out on November 8th. Under the Waves. Do you recall what Under the Waves is?
I do not recall what Under the Waves is.
Oh, it's by Quantic Dream. Oh, that's right. This is the Quantic Dream thing where you're in like a submarine.
I don't know if I trust Quantic Dreams.
Yeah. But, I don't like the ocean. I like deep water oceans and large underwater animals. They freak me out. So I probably will not play. That's why I've not played Subnautica. Goat Simulator 3 looks like dumb fun. It's coming out November 17th. Return to Monkey Island coming out September 19th. We're coming up. Moonbreaker. What do you think about this?
Oh yeah, this is that one that was like you could paint the like the statues that you were using in game. I thought this was kind of interesting. I'm not super into like real-time strategy or like I can sometimes get into like those tactics based games, but not always. I don't know. What did you think of it?
I don't super like that it's like miniatures based. If they're going to do that, then why not just make a board game? But I don't know. Brandon Sanderson is someone who seems insane to me. But he's, I guess, writing this, or I guess adding to its lore, much like George R. R. Martin was adding to Elden Ring. I don't know. I probably will pass on this unless I watch someone play it and it's very alluring.
It was the developer of Subnautica, which, like, this is a wild departure from that game. Yeah. Also, like, I kind of did like the art style, and they said they were sort of channeling Guardians of the Galaxy and Firefly. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that this is my type of a game, is the thing.
Yeah, I think it's something, if I do engage with it, we'll be watching someone play it, but I don't know if the people that I watch will pick it up. Mm-hmm. So, Friends versus Friends. I like that you have written a weird, colorful game I couldn't make sense of in your description of it.
I didn't understand this game. I couldn't tell if it was like a card-based game or...
It is card-based. It seems like it's card-based deathmatch, or possibly it's some sort of deathmatch. I don't know what the... But it's weird. You're like playing as animal people, and you have guns and
yeah, it's like a first-person shooter, but there's like some sort of card-based system that goes along with it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like a battle royale or what, but
Lies of P. I feel like I've seen 8 trailers for this over the past couple of years, and this is the first one. I feel like you were always a robot. I didn't remember being you being like a Timothée Chalamet type little boy.
Yeah, that's what everybody's saying, is that the main character looks basically exactly like Timothée Chalamet.
But I mean, if you like Dark Souls, or more specifically, if you like Bloodborne, I feel like this seems like something that might be up your alley. It's a Pinocchio story, but it's like very weird. I don't hate this. I probably won't play it, but I might watch someone play it again.
I was going to say, this was one of the more exciting things I saw at Opening Night Live. I thought that, why would you call it Lies of P, as opposed to like Lies of Pinocchio? Also, when he lies, his nose grows, but I guess
I wonder how that's going to come into effect.
I guess he's already a real boy by this point.
I don't know. I mean, he's also kind of a robot, it seems like.
Yeah, maybe I feel like I've seen
in previous trailers, I thought he was like way more robotified. Like you could see, it almost looked like the Westworld robots, where you could like see through their exoskeleton or internal skeleton, but.
Yeah, the fact that they call it Lies of P and they seem to be dancing around like the actual like names and of characters and stuff almost makes it seem like one of those things where they're trying to remake or reboot something that they don't actually have the rights to. And so they're just like, it's similar, but we've not actually called it that. So you can't sue us.
Pinocchio might be public domain now. I actually don't know.
You would think so, but they're treating it like it's not. But
yeah. Stranded Alien Dawn.
Is this another Strand game?
It's another Strand game for sure. I think
Add
it's
it to the list.
I think it's a survival type game. It's like that Dune game, but on a not desert. So that's interesting.
I'm just looking at the trailer now. It's still not clear to me what kind of game it is.
Do you like sand?
Not particularly.
Well, then Atlas Fallen is not for you. Because this is a game that's all about sand. They should have called this game All About Sand. You're people who I guess can control sand and also fight monsters made of sand. They had a very interesting cinematic trailer. But this is a sand game. So if you're interested in sand, 2023.
Not to be confused with Strand game. This is its very own thing, a sand game.
Homeworld 3, I have no memory of them showing. Genshin Impact. Everybody is always liking that Genshin Impact. Honkai Star Rail. I still don't really understand what this game is, if it's multiplayer or what's going on with it. You're in a train. They showed very little of it, actually.
Yeah, there was speculation that this is maybe more of a like linear story-based game as opposed to like a Genshin-like game, even though it's the same developer. But they have a lot of money now to work with because of the success of Genshin. So,
High on Life. What were your thoughts on this? You have written that it's underwhelming in your notes.
Yeah, this was like, I don't know why they chose to show what they showed. It felt like they were like, here's a random boss fight. Um, but it wasn't like a fun or interesting boss fight. Like, it seemed like your main weapon was doing very little damage. So he's just like, he would shoot the enemy a bunch of times and then have to reload. And then you would have to like swing away for a while because the platform would disappear. And there would be like some sort of acid thing you would have to avoid. And then the platform would come back and you would just shoot them again for a little bit and tick off a little bit more of their health bar. And then they'd go away again. And it was just like rinse, repeat. It did not seem like a super compelling boss fight to me. And also like the entire time, your gun is making weird quips at you. And it's just like, I wonder if this is going to be one of those games where it tries to be a little too irreverent such that it gets annoying.
I enjoy the like writing of like the Rick and Morty people. And I like that Solar Opposites show on Hulu. I think that's also very good. But I'm wondering if that you're right, if this will stretch it a little thin.
Also, like, they didn't even show the full boss fight. Like, he just, like, fights him for a few minutes, and then it's just, like, cut to, you know, title sequence, and you're just like...
It's weird.
Is that it? Like, why specifically did you show this?
And it's weird because they were, like, unrelated to this, they released, like, 10 minutes or maybe even more of just, like, random story stuff. Gameplay, which I think maybe would have fit better in this presentation as opposed to this like no context boss fight.
No context. Here's like a few minutes of fighting a boss without like even finishing the fight. It's just like, it was a super strange choice to me, but what do I know?
Let's skip through some of these because I don't think we care about Hard Space Shipbreaker.
Nope.
But we do care about The Expanse. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I'm not super fond of like the Telltale series of games, but this is finally like a property that I'm excited about. So it's one of those things where I'm a little bit torn on it because while I don't particularly care about this style of game, I do like the idea of a game based on The Expanse and sort of fleshing out some of those characters a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I may end up playing it when it comes out, but I'm not like chomping at the bit to play it. Just based solely on the type of game that it is. But that's about where I'm at.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space, a classic movie. This is a like Dead by Daylight clone, it seems like, where it's like asymmetrical multiplayer where some people are playing as the killer clowns and some people are trying to escape the killer clowns. Mm-hmm. So that's something. Scars Above, I have no memory of. Word Song, was that crazy Chinese one?
I am just going to the
crazy Chinese one I'm thinking of is Where Wind Meets. Word Song, I have no memory of. Age of Empires 4 DLC is fine. Gotham Knights is whatever. We're not going to play it. What do you think of this Where Wind Meets? It's trying to do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I thought that it looked like a way more like fantasy version of like Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
Which I'm into.
Looks crazy.
Yeah, it does look crazy, and I think I will play this when it comes out.
Kojima popped up because he has to, because Jeff Keighley loves Kojima, and he's doing that podcast, which we talked about.
It was funny because he's like sitting in a sound studio, but it sounds like he was recording it on his phone. Like we're in this sound studio, but we couldn't figure out how to make any of this equipment work. So I did just record my audio on a phone. This is why it sounds bad. Please listen to my podcast. It's exclusively on Spotify.
Park Beyond is like a Roller Coaster Tycoon style game. So if you're into Roller Coaster Tycoon, check that out. A car that's Pokemon ?
Yeah, what was this segment?
Who can say? This was a car that was made in collaboration with Pokemon, so it could like have Pikachu on it or something. And they said they'd be back next year.
Well, yeah, but the car itself didn't look Like, you wouldn't see that on the street and go, "Oh, that's a Pokemon car," because it's themed
weird
for Pokemon. It was just like a weirdly colored Mini Cooper, basically.
Well, and I think when you turn it on, the screens on the inside like have Pokemon stuff that happens.
Yeah, and I like, obviously it's an electric car, and that's why they're sort of choosing to use Pikachu as sort of the like main character of it. But like, I was very confused by this. This seemed like Jeff Keighley's secret passion outside of video games is cars, and he just happened to find like a news story that was like video game adjacent. So he was like, you know what? I don't care if no one likes it. This is for me. I'm going to put something I care about in it. And so he added this to the show, and everybody was like, why did you do this? It was very weird, because I don't even think you can buy it.
I think he's all about just like, how can we evolve? Like, he's always looking to evolve the art or the platform. He wants to do weird stuff that, like, he did that weird thing where you could watch his fake E3 in IMAX theaters for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's just like, oh, a car at this thing? No one's ever done that before. That's interesting. I guess I'll do that. So, I mean, it's just Jeff Keighley being Jeff Keighley.
I guess it's true. When you think of like the old E3 shows back in the day, the stuff that stands out is the weird stuff that they did. That usually didn't work very well, but it was at least weird and memorable.
It definitely was memorable. I mean, we're talking about it, so I guess it worked.
5 years from now, when we're looking back on like the summer game shows of 2022, we'll remember that weird Pokemon car thing that Jeff
they
Keighley
said
did?
They'd be back. They said they were going to invest in whatever this is. So it wouldn't surprise me if next year they were like, hey, we're back at Gamescom. Here's like a Bulbasaur car that shoots water or something.
I would understand that. So if the maker of that car was like, we've got this really cool like electric vehicle, and we're gonna have an operating system where you can download these like Pokemon themes, and it'll somehow like integrate with like Pokemon Go or something like that.
Now
like,
that's interesting.
I would understand that, and you could like make a case for why that should be included in a show like this. But like, download your the latest update. Download your Bulbasaur theme. Something like that would be cool for like Pokemon fans who also want to own an electric car. But I don't know.
Warhammer 40K Darktide seems fine. Blacktail I was not interested in. It's like some bow and arrow game, first person bow and arrow.
Yeah, where you're like a witch in the woods.
Phantom Hellcat? I don't remember what Phantom Hellcat is.
I'm gonna have to look up the trailer.
Crossfire X, I also don't remember. This might have been during the part where they were giving out awards, which I skipped through because I don't like the awards parts of these. Outlast Trial is something I'm not going to be playing because it looks too disgusting and scary.
Yeah.
And then they closed it out with Dead Island 2. Dead Island 2 is, I guess, finally coming out February 3rd, 2023, set in LA. Now, they
did not take our advice and do like a remade version of the Goat Simulator 3 trailer.
They didn't. That would have been funny, and they should have done that. But it was just a weird cinematic trailer where, I mean, it was fine.
Where Lenny Kravitz goes out and like fights some zombies and goes back home again.
It was not a terrible way to end the press conference. I mean, it was something that people have been anticipating that they maybe thought was no longer happening. So it did get leaked prior to this. I don't remember if we talked about it on last week's podcast. But I think Amazon like UK put out a listing that had the exact release date. It had like blurbs about it and screenshots. I don't think I'm going to play this, but I might watch people play it. I feel like I've been saying that a lot this episode.
Yeah.
But, Dead Island was a good game when it came out. I had fun playing it, but mostly because it was all weird. And I don't know if this will have like a weird... This could fall prey to that same thing that Saints Row fell prey to, where it has not evolved.
Yeah. I can see that too. Now that I wouldn't have said that before Saints Row happened, but that's a good point that this game has been in development for so long, and like the previous game came out in the 360 generation when, like I said, like that was just what you did. You made open world GTA style games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that being the case where it basically just feels like more Dead Island 1, but in a different location, and maybe they've not evolved it the way we were hoping they would.
And then it was over. We've gone a little long this week, but do you want to get briefly into what we've been watching, playing?
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing more No Man's Sky, which I still really enjoy, and we did do a video this week as well. As we're recording this, it will be last week, I think, by the time this podcast goes up. But it's all where I get a chance to introduce you to No Man's Sky, since we've been talking about it on the podcast, and I've been trying to convince you to jump in and give it a whirl. But yeah, what did you think of No Man's Sky?
It's very beautiful, and it is just like, it's very, very attractive to just go out and try to find a crazy planet and just like set up a base there, or get a freighter. I think the freighter is what's really gotten me interested in it, like having a mobile base that you can go from system to system with.
Yeah.
I think I am going to pick it up when it gets to be on sale again. It's on my Steam wish list now, so when it gets to be not $60 again, I think I'm going to pick it up. But yeah, it was very informative. It seems like it's actually, you had said it before, but it does seem like it's not a pain to fly around and do ship combat, which is great.
Yeah, I actually have really enjoyed it. Like I don't necessarily go seeking out like ship battles, but like when they pop up, I'm not like annoyed or frustrated by them, because it makes you feel like an ace pilot very easily by just like allowing you to hit one button and it just like tracks the enemy ship and does all the flying for you.
Yeah.
So it's like it's an extremely accessible version of ship battles. So, but yeah, I definitely go check out that video. And
we're gonna have another video coming up. That'll probably come up next week, where I show Zach Minecraft as kind of like a 1-2 punch of, he shows me No Man's Sky, I show him Minecraft. So
yeah, it's been
look
a while
out for
since
that
we've
as well.
Done blind spotting videos on the YouTube channel, and since we've both been talking about Minecraft and No Man's Sky a lot over the last couple of weeks, we thought it was a good opportunity to bring back blind spotting. And so yeah, check those videos out.
And then I watched the season finale of Westworld, the latest season of Westworld, this past week.
You made it through all of it?
I did. It's I feel like I've been very negative this episode, but Westworld is bad now.
Is it? I have only seen the first episode.
Yeah, they really chose to end this season in a way that I think is not good. The first season is maybe one of the best seasons of television. It's just like so cool. They have so many new, interesting ideas, and there's some great reveals. Second season was weird, and like they were trying to do a lot of stuff that I didn't super agree with. Third season was fine.
The last episode of that second season was just like complete bonkers, and I had no idea what was going on.
Not great. Third season was fine. You got into the real world. I didn't hate that. I like Aaron Paul as a guy, and being in the real world and like seeing all these things happen is interesting. But I don't know, man. The fourth season just feels like it's really dropped off in quality, and I don't know that I need a fifth season. I'm fine with it ending because it's just like bad. And I also like couldn't tell you what the next season would be like, and whatever it would be, it's not going to be what I want. So, don't watch Westworld, or only watch the first season, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I almost there for a while. I was going that direction with Stranger Things as well. I think the most recent season of Stranger Things kind of redeemed it.
Yeah, it's great.
But there for a while after that, sort of the third season in particular, I was getting to the point with that where I was like, I don't know if I need any more of this. This is one of those things where the first season was so good that I would say rewatch that instead of continuing on past that. But no, they totally redeemed it. So maybe Westworld can do the same, but yeah, I don't know if I would hold my breath on that.
Well, we've gone a little long today, but I think it was worth it.
Do you happen to have any parting wisdom before we go?
Zach, I posted this in the chat. You don't have to look at it right now, but anyone else, if you want to take a look at the episode description. I saw this on Twitter, and I don't know the lore behind it, or what it is, or why it exists, or when it's from. But there's a little animation that is set to an ELO song that I found to be very good, and I think everyone should watch it. And that's all I'll say about it. Daikon film.
It's a little get a load of this type of a thing from the Midnight
Exactly,
Show.
yeah. I think everyone should watch it. It's great. And we'll end on that. Follow us on Twitter.
Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you just search for Starside Cafe, you'll find us in those places. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.